Hey, everybody. Hope you're having a great and healthy day and staying safe wherever you are during this very challenging time. And during this challenging time, a lot of people have a lot of questions regarding their mortgage. And today I'm joined by my very good friend, Alex Poole, who's Senior Loan Officer with PRMG. And I look forward to sharing with you in this video with questions that I have for Alex, and Alex sharing a little bit of his industry experience so it can help you if you have any questions about your mortgage. And Alex, thanks so much for joining me today and having a discussion regarding this. So Alex, why don't you tell everybody a little bit about your background and your experience in the mortgage industry?
Well, thanks, Sid. I have basically over 20 years experience in the industry, originally from the Chicagoland area, where I started back in the day with a company that some of you may remember, Norwest Mortgage, which was actually the nation's largest lender at the time before they were acquired by Wells Fargo, which of course became one of the largest banks for lending. Worked with them off and on many years, including in Florida. I relocated with Wells Fargo at the time to Florida. Worked with some of the leading banks like PNC and then got after the 2008 crisis, because there are a lot of references today to the 2008 crisis, which changed, for the most part, a lot of things for the better, such as appraisers can no longer be contacted directly. There has to be a little more measures in place to make sure appraisals are done correctly. And licensing, of course, was another big change. And so at the time I got my license, which we had a nationwide licensing system, which did not exist prior to 2008. And then started working with some of the more independent lenders who have a lot more flexibility outside of the bank model. I think if you talk to a lot of realtors and people these days, you'll find that for the most part, for the last 10 plus years, a lot of the flexibility and options to obtain better financing are sometimes found outside of the banks. It doesn't mean that the bank is still not a good source for financing. Certainly they have their place in the market, but personally I've taken my career in the direction of working outside of the bank and have been able to service a lot of clients well because of that, in terms of speed, flexibility, more options in terms of lower credit scores and so forth. Today's crisis, though, that's happening now is going to create some more changes going forward. We don't yet know the full extent of what those changes may be, but we're already starting to see some of those changes. Some lenders have already tightened their standards to either minimum 620, whereas before they were going below 620, or minimum 680 for an FHA loan. And I'll get into some of the details as to why that may be happening later. But yeah, thanks for having me, Sid.
Yeah, great. Appreciate it. So a question a lot of people are asking is that they've heard the Fed has dropped the interest rate to zero or near zero. So does that mean that I or someone else can get a 0% mortgage now?
Yeah, actually, oddly enough, that is a very common question. And what the Fed does is they control the overnight lending rate between banks, but that's not for the consumer. And they don't in one shot control rates for all types of loans, meaning car loans, mortgages, credit cards. But this is their way of influencing markets and certain conditions that make it more favorable for people to receive more favorable rates. So obviously in a time of crisis like this, they took action, and not only did they take action, they took pretty much, in my opinion, unprecedented action, because they acted, number one, before their meeting was even scheduled. It was scheduled for like a Wednesday and they suddenly met on a Sunday. I've never seen them do that. And they also very aggressively priced it down by, I think it was 3/4 of a point, if not a full point, to get it down as close to zero, if not actually zero, as possible. So what that will mean is we'll begin to see, hopefully, perhaps in the future, even lower rates than we had. We were already pretty low to begin with before they took that emergency action. But what is actually happening in the meantime, because of the vagueness of the situation and the uncertainty for now as to the situation, it's creating a little bit of chaos in the markets, which are actually keeping rates about the same, if not higher, than maybe where they were, say, in February, early March. So we do expect them to stay the same, if not drop lower, however, as a trend. However, for the time being, I think it was inadvertent, and we'll get into that, I think, on your next question, how the actions they took are actually influencing the market besides the Fed rate cut.
Yeah, interesting. So, as part of the government stimulus package, which includes provisions for forbearance and foreclosures on mortgages, can you explain regarding that?
Yeah, so basically, besides the cutting of the Fed discount rate to get it as close to, if not actually zero as possible, they've also obviously passed, as many have heard, several packages with some pretty serious stimulus in terms of trying to inject trillions of dollars into the economy. I think part of what they did was issue forbearance and a moratorium on foreclosures for the next 3 months minimum, so that people don't get foreclosed on if they miss their payments, and so that people can request forbearance from their banks or current services of the mortgage. What is key for that is that don't make any assumptions. It's not like you get a free ride in the sense of, okay, well, I don't want to make my payment this month. I don't feel like it, or I'd rather not. That's not how it works. You really have to contact your servicer or lender to make it explicitly clear what your situation is, because they are handling it on a case by case basis. And based on your situation, they will work something out for you. It could be 3 months, 6 months, up to a year. And they'll let you know the details of what's involved. And I would recommend getting it in writing, because having a conversation with who knows who on the phone may not hold water later. That happened back in the crisis of '08, where there was a little bit of confusion, and you definitely want to have some things in writing, and if necessary, consult with an attorney or somebody that can properly advise you on those matters. But in the meantime, definitely contact your bank or lender, current servicer of the mortgage, if you are having trouble making your payment. If you can still afford to make the payment, again, that doesn't mean you get a free ride and an automatic pass. I suppose you can still contact your lender and discuss it with them, but it's really designed for people that are having some hardship, some real hardship. And there's a few ways they're going about it. One is where, say, after 3 months, you have to make those 3 months of payments. So it may be a temporary help, but after 3 months, if you're not in a better position to make those 3 months of payments, that may not really be helpful to you. What may be more helpful is, if possible, if they can delay those 3 months till the end of your mortgage. So that way it's paid off when you either sell the house or do a refinance or much further down the road. That's what I would advise you to try to obtain if possible, rather than having to pay it after the 3 or 6 or even 12-month period, is having it added to the end of the life of the loan where possible. Now, an inadvertent thing that happened, they had good intentions, the government, but it also created a little bit of chaos in the mortgage industry where, we do sell these loans on the secondary market, whether you're a broker or a lender like myself or a direct lender. And the value of the loans has been diminished because rates were already pretty low to begin with. Now you add fuel to the fire with there's this forbearance situation where people aren't necessarily in all cases required to make their payments. So that devalues these loans, and the lenders find themselves in a position where they have to maintain a certain value of loans for liquidity to have their warehouse lines open to lend. And now if that's starting to diminish, it could affect their ability to lend. I dare say there may be some lenders that will struggle through this crisis, and who knows what may happen. A lot of businesses may close and ultimately never reopen. I dare say there may be some lenders that may have difficulty with that. I, of course, hope I'm not in that category, because I'm with a strong company based out of, oddly enough, Corona, California, PRMG. That's literally the name. And they started right around the time of 9/11. So they're accustomed to dealing with crisis, and they're trying to stay ahead of this unprecedented times. But I guess nobody's immune in terms of difficulty during these times. All kinds of businesses and banks may struggle, and some may not be able to lend as easily. So that's where I think I may have an advantage. I may be able to process, lend, and still do business, so to speak, as usual, as much as possible.
Good information. One of the last questions I have is, most of us are stay-at-home orders. So now's a really good time for refinancing or purchasing a home.
Yeah, there may be a lot of people who feel like, okay, well, I'm going to wait this out and, wait to see what happens. And they may be, rightfully so, in a little bit of shock or not as persuaded to take action and either buy a home or refinance. However, again, if you're struggling in some way, now may be an especially good time to refinance to help you obtain funds, either cash out of the loan, as long as, of course, you still have a job, you still have income, you still have good credit. While you still have it, try to take advantage of it if you think it may benefit you in the form of a refinance. We do verify, of course, employment just prior to closing. So your employment and income needs to remain in place. But if that's you, if you're in that category, you may be able to take advantage of that. Some banks were already backed up with record refinances due to low rates. Now they're going to be even probably more strained and not be able to get to people in time, meaning no less than 60, 90 days plus, where I still have on average a 30 to 45 day process. And that's true for both purchase and refi. So again, I may have an advantage and way to help you out a little quicker there. And the last thing is a lot of, realtors are adapting to this, doing virtual tours and so forth. I have a team of agents that I work with. Feel free to let me know if you want to be put in touch with an agent who can specialize in that for you to help you look for property. And, I can do, in the case of a refinance or purchase, most of the process, probably 90, 95% of it over the phone and by internet, et cetera, with electronic signatures. And really, it's just the final steps for the actual final signatures of the mortgage that, would need to perhaps take in place in person. We can keep the people in the room on a closing to a minimum. The last closing I had was myself and just two other people. So we kept our distance and even wore masks and keep it safe. So a lot of that can be managed, like I said, online, electronically, and so forth. And you can still, do business in that way. Of course, when it comes to real estate, in the case of a purchase, at some point, you're probably going to want to look at the property. I mean, it's hard to buy a property from
Yeah.
A to Z completely online unless you're already familiar with it. So again, I would encourage you to talk to your agent of choice about that. And if you don't have one, I'd be glad to refer you to one.
And as far as the states, you work in all 50 states, or what states do you
Well,
generally?
at this time, I'm licensed in the state of Florida, so my main business is in South Florida, but I can handle the entire states. But I do have a team of people that I work with in my office in Boca Raton, and that team includes most, not all, oddly enough, New York is not one of them, but most of the 50 states. So wherever you are, if you need assistance, if it's not myself, somebody on my team who is licensed there we can work together to help you.
Great, great. And if somebody wanted to contact you, and I'll certainly put the information in the video, but what's a good website?
Well, actually, the best way is to email me at my direct email address for work, which is apool, like my name, A for Alex, Pool, just like swimming pool, no E, APOOL, at PRMG.net, or give me a call on my cell, 561-699-5388.
Perfect. Well, Alex, I couldn't say enough great things about you. I've known you for so many years, and you really know your stuff. You're so professional. Your ratings speak for itself. And please, if you have any mortgage needs, especially living in Florida and other states, for any questions you have, please contact Alex. And Alex, I really appreciate your time today. Thanks a lot.
Sure, Sid. Thank you.
All right. Be well. Thanks.